Time now to talk business with our partners 2 Degrees. We're expecting inflation figures out later this morning to push closer to the RBNZ's guardrail of 3% for inflation. BusinessDesk's Garth Bray is at the desk. Good morning.
Good morning, Ryan.
So yes, they will get close, but we should still be sweet for an OCR cut next month?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at what's termed sort of a small surprise in these numbers rather than a big surprise, bearing in mind we haven't opened the box yet. I think the Reserve Bank back in March was talking about a lower figure at this point. It's looking like it'll be up about 0.6 on the quarter and about, I think, a little bit higher than that. It's up around for the year. So the effect of that really is to say, we've had a softer economy than we expected, that those prices around food and energy have really pushed. And particularly, I think the lines charges that cut in the first quarter of this year are starting to show up. So all of that suggests that maybe the numbers were slightly off. However, the Reserve Bank in its last kind of update-only no press conference was sort of still strongly signalling that there would be some kind of a cut in August. And it would be unusual for them to have done that if they were this uncertain, having seen some of this. So I'm talking in circles, it feels like here.
Yeah,
it's more about where is it going to go in the long term, right? Is it going to crack through that 3% this year?
And stay there.
Or is it going to
come back down?
Hit the head and bounce back down again?
And at the moment, they reckon it'll come back down.
The consensus is still that it'll come back down.
And therefore, we can keep on cutting.
Well, but how many, right? Will it be, if they get a more surprising number out of this data today, then that might pull those expectations down. Right. It might even pull that off. It would have to be a big one to take August off the table.
Yeah, John Key was saying last week we should do 100 basis points. Did you see that? Forget about 25, baby.
Easy for him to say now. We don't actually have to cover the cost of all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are no consequences for him.
Yeah.
Now, our exports to China are getting a couple of boosts here and there. What's behind this?
Right. So we've all heard about grass-fed this, grass-fed that, grass-fed butter. We're the world champions of grass-fed here in New Zealand because, as we know, our dairy industry, our red meat, it's actually mostly about the amazing ability of farmers here to grow pasture, probably better than anyone else in the world. And so, but everybody goes to market with a label that says grass-fed because in the States that gets you, huge kudos. In China, they're looking at a certificate that the government will approve that basically says this is grass-fed, this is what it is.
That would be good.
There might be a little bit of palm caloric pellet in there, or there might be some, but they'll have a definition of how much grass is required for grass-fed. And they came back from a trade fair last year with the indication that that will really, really help. And we know in China they love a certificate on something from the government that says, yes, this is approved. They also really love dairy. Their health plan for 2030, which came out, a nutrition plan was recommending that the average adult, if they're consuming dairy, needs to bump it from 300 grams to 500 grams a day. That's, I think, Fonterra's Rich Dallin was saying, that's like 700,000 tonnes of extra dairy we could be selling in there.
Brilliant.
Big one. And
these are great things.
And it's also, I guess, just general observation, if the Chinese government's putting out a health plan, probably a lot more people are going to follow it than, say, New Zealanders following a New Zealand government health plan. That's just the way things are, right?
People say eat less, we go to KFC. The banks, this is a class action we spoke about last week.
Yeah.
The big banks now going to be coming before today. Is it a select committee?
Yeah, Finance and Expenditure are looking at sort of an omnibus of finance bills. It's the triple CFA that covers credit contracts and financing and so on, and that's the one where the banks have cut this deal basically to put some limits on what sort of compensation judges are able to give for past misdemeanours, and it looks like they're on track for a win there, although you saw, I think, ACT coming out last week saying, hey, we're not so sure about this. You saw elements of NZ First saying, hey, we're not so sure about this. So we'll sort of see how that lands, but the CEO of ANZ and General Counsel and their CEO and Chair of ASB are up sort of defending that. You're also going to hear from others. For instance, there's a company called Wise that does a lot of fintech trading and so on, and they do international money transfers. They're saying, hey, look, banks are making way too much money out of transferring money, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's sending money back to the islands or wherever your other family are from, whether it's just holiday cash. And they want it to be made obvious kind of what sort of rates are being charged, because at the moment the banks are charging, they say, a lot higher than people realise because they're just saying, oh, it's fees free or zero fee, but they just sell it at a higher or a lower price and make money that way.
Bit tricky.
We'll see where that goes.
All right, interesting. They'll be before the select committee today. Thanks so much, Garth. Garth Bray from Business Desk, and we talk to Garth every day thanks to our partners 2 Degrees.